gosh.
Oh my God, Becky.
We're doing it, huh?
We are really doing this podcast. I'm having flashbacks to my radio days, and all of a sudden my blood pressure went up.
That's every day.
No.
How dare us, with that said, how dare us take on something else, right?
Well, this was your bright idea.
Okay.
Can I tell? Let me tell y'all what happened. So we're in bed after getting Harper down finally, and Mike just busts out, "Babe, I got an idea.
Mm-hmm.
Let's do a podcast."
Yeah.
So I look him in his eye, and then I pull the cover up over my head and turn to the other side. Because I'm like, how on earth? I mean, we've got a television show that documents our life, not one but 3 businesses. 3 children, and no time as it is. Like, how are we going to just... Plus, I said everybody and their mama has a podcast.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Just because everyone has something doesn't mean they're going to do it the way we're going to do it, right?
We had a lot to say because we've been married for 18 years.
Right. But we're not claiming to be experts.
Yeah, we're not experts in marriage, relationships.
We just know some things.
Not experts in parenting, real estate.
No.
Well... kind of an expert over here. Not an expert in finance. Talk to your own accountant. Right. But really, we are a married couple, and we make the decision every day when our feet hit the floor that we want to stay married.
Yes.
You know, we've been together 18 years, and when you hear statistics that half of all marriages end in divorce, it can be frightening. So you want to search for tools and inspiration and be able to pour back into people.
Right. So this platform is not just about us pouring out, it's about us being able to receive and learn as well.
Yeah, and so we also made a commitment to our children that we were going to leave them legacy and not debt. So we're definitely talking money and how to set our families up for success as well. So on today's show, we got an amazing couple. I feel like I've known them for years. I have, but you know how you know somebody, but you don't really know like what they've been through. And then when you hear, you're like, wow. They've been married for 28 years.
Ooh, that's awesome.
He has sold millions of albums, traveled on world tours. This is How We Do It fame. Montell Jordan and his wife, Kristin Jordan, who I never knew was his manager.
Yeah, I didn't know that either.
She's like the quiet storm.
Right, but she's the one that gives out those hugs.
What does she call them?
Heartfelt hugs. I need a hug.
Not from her, from me, right?
I need a hug.
But yeah, you better get it right. You're not getting hugs for no other women.
Ladies and gentlemen, help us welcome Montell and Kristin Jordan.
Welcome, guys.
Hey.
Big Papa and Mimi.
Big Papa.
Hey.
In the building.
Yes.
Wait, I love that because it's not your mama's grandparents.
No.
No, we
And
too
you love
young
it
to
when they
fly.
call you Big Papa. That's it.
You know that's what happened,
That's
right? First of all, I'm too young to fly to be a grandma. I can't swing it yet.
Now,
It's
I
a
thought you
thing.
had one, but you
We
have
4.
You have 4 grandbabies.
4.
Yeah.
Okay.
6, 5, 2, and brand new.
Yeah.
He's 14 weeks, and he is,
weeks.
oh my gosh.
And
He's
y'all
my
spoil
heart.
them rotten, don't you?
Oh, 100%.
I know.
It's the best job ever. See, I thought it was going to be a little like, oh, I don't want to be a grandma. I'm too young for... No, it's the best gig.
Oh,
I
it's-
totally would have traded this. Matter of fact, I probably would have done it quicker if I knew this was coming.
No,
That's
they
the
can take
Mimi
their-
thing
they can
is
take
great.
their
Wait,
time. I
you
was
would have
okay
done it
with
quicker?
that.
You can't control being a grandmother.
Well, ish. So my kids are so spread apart, right? So we have from 33 to 10,
Got you.
right? So like
We'll never be empty nesters.
never. Yeah, that's a thing we'll never
We
know.
thought it was coming near close, and the grandkids
And
come, and it's
see.
like, okay, it's not gonna happen.
My mom says she loves being a grandma more than she loved being a mother. And I'm like, what do you mean? And she says, well, because I can spoil them rotten and throw them right back at you.
So the craziest part is our youngest daughter is 10 and our oldest grandbaby is 6. So when they come over and they go into the pantry, they're like, hey, can I have corn chips for breakfast? Sure.
Not you.
And my daughter's 10. I'm like,
The
you need
10-year-old,
fruit.
you can.
You
but
need
baby, you can't.
Right.
She's like, wait, what happened? I was like, we're not done with you yet. Hold on. You'll be all right.
Wait a
Love
minute.
it.
Wait.
Love
Well,
it.
I love
Love it.
that you guys are our first guests on our very first podcast episode.
Yes.
First of
Marriage
all,
and monies.
Yes.
the
Marriage
monies.
and the monies.
But
Listen.
our 5-year-old grandbaby, when we travel, he says, Big
yeah.
Papa got to go because he got to go make the monies.
The monies.
They
monies.
asked him for, I think, what was it, Father's Day or
Father's
Christmas?
Day.
I think it was Father's Day. They put together this gift of him asking, they asked him questions. You know, what do you think Big Papa likes? What do you think he does? And one of his answers, what he does. Oh, Big Papa goes to get the monies. You know? So-
You gotta get a T-shirt that says that. Big
Gotta
Papa
go
get
get
the
the
monies.
monies.
Yes.
That's right.
Listen, We appreciate you guys being here, really, honestly. You know, you walked into something that you weren't sure what it was going to be for this being our first episode, right? And we're honored. So thank you.
We're honored. You know what? We've known each other.
We have. Can I tell him how?
Please go back.
I don't think Mike doesn't know.
I'm afraid. No.
It's nothing to be afraid of. It's just really funny because Montell and I were in a play called The Sweet Spot.
I saw that flyer. You showed me the flyer.
Did I?
You did.
Okay, but I don't know if you ever knew this story. No.
Okay.
So, I never knew you managed his career. Okay, which is really dope, by the way, because you guys were in business before people, really realized.
Really doing that.
Yeah.
And you were also newlyweds when your song became a #1. This is how we do it. So world tours, millions of albums sold. She was the quiet storm.
Yeah.
So we did this play together.
Well, she wasn't quiet behind the scenes. Behind the scenes, she was very loud, Storm. But to everybody else in the world, yes, go on.
So we get to know each other through this play, and you were there, and there was part of the role, babe, was I had to jump on your back. Do you remember this? And I was like, his wife gonna kill me. She's sitting over there giving no. I'm not jumping on his back. Because I could just imagine, right? He was this mega star. Were you a basketball player at some point?
Never a basketball player.
People assumed it,
just
though.
because I'm tall and
Yeah.
short, and that came along with the territory. But yeah.
But I guess I'm sensitive to the fact of what it would be like for a woman with a husband who is in the public eye. I don't know that I could have been as strong as what you've been. 28 years married, like through
correct.
it all. So I was like, I'm not touching her husband.
It's funny. You get so like, I don't know, desensitized a little bit of like there are things that you expect. I don't think I did in the beginning. In the beginning, people didn't know we were married.
Right.
So because we had walked into our label at Def Jam at the time, and we had come from advertising, right? And it was such a counter-culture shock. I got to tell you, like, mind blown. I come in a suit. First of all, I walked into Def Jam in a suit. Let's start there. Lord
Game
Jesus,
over.
help us, okay? And so I'm shaking the executive hand. They're like, you different. I was like, oh, dear God, where am I? What has happened? But the crazy thing is they were like, hey, he's not going to sell any records if they know you're his wife. And
they won't respect you as a manager if you're the wife. So that's where the whole, you'll be behind the scenes, keep your maiden name, be Kristin Hudson, I'll be the available single male R&B star, and we can rock that way so that you get the acclaim as the manager and I get the acclaim, you know what I'm saying, as the artist. And so our marriage was on the back burner. It wasn't, we were wildly successful at music business, but our marriage was hemorrhaging early on in our marriage simply because we didn't put it first.
So it was like you felt you had to hide your wife to be successful.
But
you know what? If we didn't. My thing was I wanted to be successful so bad. That was the moniker of my childhood. My mom would tell me, self-sufficient, independent, you got this. Anything you put your mind to, you got this. And I knew in my mind, that was the mantra. Yeah. So I grew up like that. I didn't know if I could be a good wife.
I'm glad you went there because it kind of ties in to what I'm getting ready to say because of what I heard out of that conversation. Submission and roles. Yep. How was it for you to play your part, in a sense, right? And
as newlyweds. That's a lot of pressure.
You played a role for the success to happen, right? For you to be who you are and play a role. How does that play in your marriage as far as submission?
So you go home, right, after getting off stage, after people screaming, Montell, and you say...
Well, the crazy part is that I did not learn how to submit. And so when you grow up in a single-parent home, and then it becomes a blended family, a lot of times what happens is if the tone isn't set correctly, then you don't learn how to submit to anything because you feel like, I was here first. What are you doing? But the truth is that if the parent doesn't take a hold of that and allow the children to be in their proper place, then you don't ever learn to submit. So then you get in the world, I know.
Can we lean into that a little more?
Please,
Can we lean
yes.
into that? Because the word submission,
Yeah. It seems like a nasty word, but it's the greatest
not a bad
blessing.
thing.
it is a great word. But I had to learn that as well. We got married when I was 36. I was a huge radio personality in New York City. I was like you, that I'm independent. No, this was me with my points out. I'm independent. I don't need a man for nothing. I got my own. But that was a lonely place to be.
It was.
Yeah.
I would literally get off of red carpets, and get from in front of the camera and go home and cry myself to sleep at night because I really wanted. What I think we all want is love.
Yep.
We all want understanding and compassion. We want truth. And I couldn't find it anywhere in New York. But it was really me, my vibration was my limitation.
Wow.
Right?
Yeah.
So if we could lean into that a little bit more, because I know some people watching are still saying, girl, submit.
Yeah.
But your definition of submission.
Let me lean into that a little bit. Submission, people think submission is agreement.
It's not.
Agreement is agreement. Submission is I disagree, but I come under the authority of someone else's for the sake of coming into submitting to that. So in other words, the best idea that I got from it, I used to be a big wrestling fan, huge. They have something in wrestling called a submission hold.
Yep.
A submission hold is normally done when a person gets in a compromising situation with the opponent. Even though they're normally wrestling, you're up close and personal, but there are certain moves that if you make the wrong move and you get in this particular position, something has to happen. You have to submit. You have to tap out, or something will break. Maybe as a kid, you can remember a family member that would grab your finger and pull it back and say uncle, say uncle. You're not my uncle.
Right.
But if you don't say it, if you don't tap out, that thing gets broken. And God never desired for us to be broken like that, which is why he gave us this thing called submission, because there's a safety in submission, that something that could be broken is able to not be broken because you're willing to say, I'm going to come underneath that thing to get myself safe again. And so in our marriage, God wants us to submit one to another, but she wasn't submitted to me and I wasn't submitted to God. And it's crazy to think that I can say this, it is so much easier for a woman to submit to a man who's submitted to God.
Facts.
And it's very difficult.
because
for
we
a
can
woman
trust.
because you can trust the God in him more than you can trust him.
If you're following God, I'll follow you off the planet. Whatever you say.
Wait, say that
let's be-
again?
I said, if you are following God, I will follow you off the planet. Because the truth is that I know that your authority and your orders are not coming as of your own thoughts. And ultimately, if this doesn't go right, God's coming for him, not for
Facts.
me. Like, as it was
You got the
originally
big dog.
designed.
You got the
right?
big dog coming for you.
Listen, at the end of the day, that's why it's easier for me to submit. When I understood what that actually means, is that when I come under the submission and the authority of him, he's going to cover us, but he's under a covering.
That's right.
So it's easier for me to submit to him when he's covered by God, because I know his direction and his orders and the way that he's ordering the footsteps, we're good. So
Yeah.
it's easier like that. But originally, it was not this way. And so that's where the friction came, if you will.
So let's go back to where it was originally and what changed, what shifted to make you guys realize it's time to do something different. We're going to trade in this money for our marriage. We're
Yeah.
going to trade in this fame for our faith. And you became a minister?
Yeah, yeah. Okay, so you talked about being newlyweds. We were only newlyweds for a short amount of time. We came back off our little honeymoon over in Mexico, and after that, we went right into finishing an album, and then the hit record comes 6 months later, and then we're out touring. We're on the road. So our life and our marriage really was really a wedding and not really a marriage, probably up until 6 or 7 years
deep.
into our actual marriage, because we never put our marriage first. We put our business first. We put our finances first. We placed all those things and were wildly successful at those things that we put first, but we were not prioritized in our lives properly, which is one of the things we talk about greatly now. But in that time period, because I didn't put my marriage first, you can imagine, just like you said, from being New York City, radio, big, accolades, people, oh, we want to see you, clubs, all those different things, and then you then result back to a quiet space where you could be crying your eyes out because you can be amongst millions and still be lonely.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Which is a crazy thing. And so we navigated fame and notoriety of being in the public eye, me not being able to honor my marriage and honor our vows and allow that to cover, allow God to cover our marriage. I can remember I was in an interview in New York City, and somebody asked me once, Montell, you got all this fame, you got all this fortune, you have anybody special in your life you share it with? And I said, yeah, I'm married to my music. That's
And
what
were
I
you
said.
sitting right there?
I said,
Yes, but here's the problem, right? So if he's married to his music, that makes me his mistress.
so this starts playing itself out in our marriage. It starts playing itself in our relationship. And so I'm traveling, going place to place. It starts getting shaky out there. It doesn't stop coming at you because I'm putting, what you said, the vibration that you're putting out there, you know, people are picking up what I'm putting down.
Right.
And so from that standpoint, that was part of the journey that it took us to go to. So it wasn't until about 6 or 7 years in when I was exposed for the lies and exposed for the inappropriate behaviors and infidelity and all of that. When that came to a crashing halt, that was the moment when it was like, okay, do you really want this counterfeit fame and career and all of those things, or do you want what God originally put together before all that even hit? And that was the moment I think we determined, okay, I think I'm willing to risk it all of these things to be able to have something real.
So you touched on infidelity, and today's topic or subject matter is dealing with temptation. Right? When that came into the present with your relationship, how did you deal with it?
How did you deal with it?
No, how did they deal with it?
How did you deal with it? Well, no. The reason I asked that way is because finances and infidelity are the two reasons that
100%.
people get divorced.
Yeah.
And if 5 out of every 1,000 people are married, and 2.5 of those 5, that's 50% of people that get married are getting divorced. That tells us that some people are not able to cope with those stressors. So, but the fact that you said 6 years in this happened, so 22 years after the infidelity, you're still married, going stronger than ever. I need to really digest. And I think a lot of women and men need to understand that you can go through something like that and come out on the other side.
Oh, yeah.
Successful.
Yeah, can I start?
Please.
Part of what's happened is I think people have drawn a line in the sand. They have determined if this happens, I got to tell y'all, social media is the gift and the curse.
It is.
Yes, it
It
is.
is.
The gift
It
and the
is.
curse. We've gotten to the point we don't even hardly, unless it's church related, we won't even read comments anymore because we'll make a simple
treacherous.
statement. We put out a simple statement where we said we took divorce off the table. That's how we got. That's how we stayed for 20,
They asked,
28
how
years.
did you
make it last for 28 years? We said we took divorce off the table, and just the people going in. No, divorce is always, well, if he cheated on me, oh, his wife must have done this. Or like they go in because anybody gets a lot of courage from behind, keystrokes.
Keyboard courage.
Keyboard courage.
But the challenge in that was that when she had the right to leave, she had the right to take half. God is saying to her, why would you leave and take half when you can stay and have it all? And so from that standpoint, we got to that place of trying to determine, okay, I'm willing to give up everything else for God to do something in me, for us to be able to stay together. And so that's where our journey really began because people want to know from her, well, why did you stay? That's the main question because as you're saying, what happens is no, I want to know you.
No, so here's the truth. So truthfully, in the back of my mind, in retrospect, I knew.
We always know.
But the thing is that I
Say that again.
Can I say we always know, but even before we have the proof, our gut. Like women, we were blessed with an intuition. I really believe in a foresight and a knowledge to read vibration as well. We know when our man is moving differently. We know when you're not touching us the same, not looking at us the same. We know.
I don't think that's a female trait.
I know.
I think
No, I'm joking.
I think that's just a person that is in tune with thyself. Because
Yeah,
we,
okay.
I'm
But it's
good at
called
reading and
women's
knowing.
intuition.
Okay, you can have that
No,
part.
we're
Yeah.
joking.
But I be knowing too.
Yeah, but you do know. But here's the truth. Like, so when you are propelled to the level that we were in the spotlight that we were, there are certain things that you're like, how do I make this train not fall off the tracks, right? So, because it's not just us. We've got
It's a business.
hundreds
it's a
of people that
corporation,
are
it's
employed by us.
employees.
Like, it's a whole thing, right? So, like, you see it, but you're kind of like,
No, I
I
can't.
gotta keep focused on, and it's coming at you so fast, right? So here's the truth. When it all comes out, I have a friend that calls me, and we go on an annual birthday trip, and she was like, "Hey, one, I'm not going. I just want to let you know, I'm so sorry. I love you, but where's Montell?" I was like, "Okay, that's odd,
Yeah, like
but
these
okay."
lifetime friends. That
These
we've
are
had.
lifetime friends, right? So she gets him on the phone. He goes like, "Ghost," right?
Yeah.
So
He's like, hey, if you don't tell her, I will.
you got 24 hours.
So it was
So
like,
she knew someone that you were having an affair
no,
with.
we were, understand, we had a tight-knit group of folks that we traveled together. We put people on. We had choreographers and dancers and people that handles, like, we had a whole group of people that for years moved as we moved
the
and
entourage.
toured. Yeah, and so they would see things, and it was like,
Don't say scenes.
but this is a moving train here. You know what I mean? This is the guy who's paying for the studio time. This is the guy who's buying all the wardrobe, and we got the flights to go to Germany next week, and he looked like he might be in the club being a little too friendly with somebody, but I guess that's what happens in this industry or whatever, and maybe his wife knows, maybe she doesn't, but I'm not going to be the one to, and so people for their livelihoods and everything, they were rocking with us.
Squash
They were,
it.
Silence is complicit.
But here's the problem. So the thing is that so when this happens and it gets revealed, I am like 17 shades of hot, right? So I go to confront. Oh yeah.
Oh, so you knew who it was.
There were several. Well, there were people that were in my inner circle. So that was the hard part.
Initially, my indiscretions were outside of our circle. And I would go through this period of, guilt, shame, go back to God. God, help, fix me. Getting back in the Word, and then I'm good. And then after a couple more weeks or whatever, then I fall back into it again. And so it was this this instability of double-mindedness, as a man, of going back and forth and hiding it for years and hiding it for years. And just from that entire journey of that was how, when someone actually saw and knew that struggle and had been keeping, there's been so much inappropriateness or whatever, at some point, that external stuff, let me just insulate myself with just my people. I can't go out here. I can't be out here. I can't do all that stuff anymore. Let me just hang with my people. And then somehow my people opened themselves to the same things that externally was there. Now it's internal.
Got him.
Because basically now when I go back to it's really because everybody knew but didn't say a word.
And
So
that
that's what I
hurts.
was that was what I was confronting. But the truth is that when I come back, I'm on my way back, and my friend says to me, she says, "I have one question for you. Did you ask God what He says?" I was like, "Ooh, girl, bye. No," because I already know what He's gonna say, and I don't want to hear that. And the truth is that I flew on an overnight flight, went straight to church, and we had 3 services. I sat outside for 2, and on the 3rd one, I went in. And I laid at the altar and was like, "God, what are we doing?" And crying out. And this is not altar time. This is in the middle of service. And the Lord.
Got to get a picture of that. That's kind of
Right. Like,
no, I just gotta-
mind you, there's
got a
like
mental picture.
5,000
And it's
people
just
in this
this-
sanctuary, and
Yeah.
I am
laying
weeping.
down at the altar.
Yeah.
But that's where you lay it down, though.
Yeah,
you know?
100%. Well, it's where He meets you, right? He doesn't care who's there, and nor did I care who was there, honestly.
Yeah.
And He said, "Stay. You and your daughter's life depend on it." And I even know what that meant at that time, but what I knew is the sovereignty of God. You know what I don't, and I trust you.
I think people perceive staying in a marriage where there's infidelity or distrust, they perceive that as weak, when really the strength is in being able to stay, in being able to forgive, not being able to forgive is weakness.
It is.
Right? But being able to say, I love you unconditionally. And we made a covenant between each other. I recognize that you are a man, you are a woman, and it is only God that gives us the strength. And it's only God that can do that. And so we're submitting to his will.
Right.
And I'm not a preacher, but I'm going to preach.
Oh,
We're submitting. Because listen, we're not perfect either. Neither do we. We have problems even to this day in our relationship, which is part of the reason we wanted to do a podcast. To continue to dig and seek inspiration and motivation from other couples who've been doing it longer, who've been through some of the same things. And so we're grateful for you being this transparent, guys.
Absolutely.
But I recognize the strength in you from the moment you walked in the door. And the king in you. As well, to be able to rise and recognize that, if I want my wife and I want my family, I got to walk right. I got to be the example.
And let me just throw this in here. When this all is going down, there's just she and I and our 4-year-old daughter.
That's it.
But now, we've been talking offline even before we started the podcast and everything, that we've got,
5
what I'm
kids.
saying, 5 kids.
And 4 grand.
4 grand.
But they don't exist without the yes.
None of this happens without the yes that she made back then. The yes that people would say, oh, you weak for staying. We don't have the marriage we have now that's better than ever. The intimacy we have now that's better than ever. You know what I'm saying? Sex after 50 right now that's better than ever. And I thought I was doing something
I'm looking forward to
in my 20s and 30s.
I thought I was good at 40.
All that, but listen though, but all of that does not exist if we don't have that yes back when it was real messy. We don't have marriage ministry together. We don't have a place for public marriages to heal in private if we didn't say yes back then. All of those pieces to that puzzle, all the promise was on the other side of that yes. It didn't come before we said, like, I'm going to promise you this if you say yes. It was, I need you to say yes.
Right.
God came and said, I need you to say yes to this. And you're like, I don't even know what I'm saying. Yeah, but I need your yes. And then if I can get your yes, then I can trust you with whatever I'm going to give you because it's not based on what you can see.
So really, it had to happen that way.
Yes.
Because it's your testimony, it's your trial that gave you guys the ability to be able to literally, as a couple and individually, walk through the hellfire and come out on the other side with buckets of water for other
not
married
even smell
couples.
like smoke.
And not smell like smoke, baby.
But let's keep it 100%, right? Because there are people listening that are going to watch this and say, listen, I'm an atheist, and everything you're saying does not relate to me, right? So there's 2 parts that I'm hearing because of what I saw in your notes. One is I honestly believe that yes can't come if she didn't see something in you, right? Because there's someone listening thinking, oh, I can go cheat, and she's going to say yes because God telling her
Not
to
every
say
woman
yes,
will.
right?
Not every woman is.
And it's not just about man, woman. If that man is going to say yes, I think you have to see something in that person in order to say yes. And God has to then approve that as well, right? So with that said, I'm also hearing, did you marry and continue to stay married for money, or was it for love, right? Because in the beginning, you stated that, it was all about, a look, finance, etc. When you got together, was it a business proposition, or was it, I am in love with you and I want to do this outside of money or not?
So funny thing is that before we got married, I got saved. Like, radically, we had broken apart. We were dating and had broken apart. I got saved. And so then he came back. I want to get back with you. Great. On Wednesday at 7 p.m. or Sunday at 11, you can come and see me. He was like, seriously? 100%.
Yeah.
I was chasing her. She was chasing God.
So I got his confirmation before I ever even pursued this. In fact, I tried to pray him away, like to Timbuktu. Literally was like
Tried to pray you away.
100%.
Yeah. And I
100%.
wake up having dreams like, Timbuktu. I want to go there. What is going on? What is going on with me?
I promise you I tried to pray him away. But the thing is that he kept showing up. I was like, okay, God. And he would confirm that. So, but I say that it's important, especially for those who are dating and wanting to be married. Make sure you know what you're signing up for, because it's a complete, encompassing yes, right? Because now, when I know that he's the one, I'm never asking dumb questions like, gosh, I wonder if he was the one. I wonder if God has someone else for me. No. My only question is, how do we get through this?
Yeah, because
my
God
questions
gave her
are
the
different.
confirmation. It was me.
So even when we hit this trial, I only had one question. I don't know how to do this. But what I do know is you know more than me, because the funny thing is I didn't check the pattern. And a lot of times I think we don't check the pattern. And the enemy is a punk, and he plays the same pattern, right? So I was the same years old as a kid. My parents were married the same amount of years, and it was over the same issue.
With her parents
Coincidence?
had the same thing with a father that had an indiscretion, and they divorced. And that was the pathway that they chose. And so
I knew how that script played out. So my thing was, I could choose that script, or I could choose God's script. I don't know how that goes, but I'll bet you it's better than this one.
Yeah, and let me just lean in just for a second, because you said for somebody that may not even believe in the God stuff that we're talking and attributing this to, you may not believe in God, but you got to believe in gravity. And the thing that we understand is whether you believe in gravity or not, there are laws that come along with gravity that exist. And if you think you can step off the side of a building and not fall, unless you're a Superman or some other hero that can fly, gravity works whether you believe in it or not. And so some of the laws and some of the things that we believe God has put in play are spiritual laws that whether you believe in them or not, they still are in play. There are laws of generosity that if you give, it'll be given unto you. There are just certain things that are just practical without even spiritual context. And so when it comes to even marriage, you have to believe that there is something greater in a person that would want them to do good. If you can't even call it God, you got to believe there's good in somebody, or that there's something there. You may not even have a name for it, but you got to have a belief in something beyond just the person sitting there in front of you. Because if that's the case, then I believe we're all doomed, because we're all human, and without something inside of us that can give us a moral compass or a guide or some type of place between good and what's not good, you have to be able to have that. So
And that's solid. So this is Marriage and Money podcast.
Yes.
So we want to talk money with you guys
about
as
the
well. We got to
money.
talk about the money. But
y'all should make every couple come here and do that.
talk about the monies.
Talk about the monies.
Before we do, though, I feel like we got to bring that full circle, right? Because you gave us a lot, and thank you for that, and super transparent. But give some couples who are literally going through this same moment in life right now, and they're like, should I stay? Should I go? Give them some tools they can use.
Tools you can use. I would say, first of all, if divorce is an option for you, you got too many options. Now, I get it. If divorce is an option for you, we're saying you got too many options. But if you choose to keep that as an option, that is a choice that you make. But then you can't ask us how we stayed together for 28 years and how we're going to be married to each other happily together forever, because we know we've taken some things off the table. And if you think about it, just from the standpoint of, you can put a weapon on the table, and you can say, hey, if you do this, this weapon comes into play. If I do this, this weapon comes into play. Nobody wants that. But that's what happens when we put divorce on the table. It's a weapon.
It's
and
a weapon.
anybody
And
have
people
access
utilize
to
it
it,
that
and
way.
they'll use it. You know, and so that's the first thing. I would say, take that off the table, and then place God in that position, if that's what you believe, to be able to help you navigate that. And then the second thing I would say, practical tools, is stop trying to balance things that need to be prioritized.
Facts.
We hear all the time, how do I balance my marriage and my career?
You don't.
How do I balance my marriage and my kids? How do I
don't.
balance our finances and this? And the reality is, some things were never meant to be balanced. When I think of, how do I balance my career and my wife? Balance, by definition, is trying to give equal value to something. Is
And they
my
don't have that.
career equal to my wife? Not in God's eyes. It's not. Something has to have more, take precedence. And so if I say my wife is going to take precedence over my career, my children are not going to take precedence. You know, we've seen couples that, hey, my kids, they come first. My kid, I don't know no wife that wants to come behind a kid. I don't know no husband that wants to come behind a child. Even when you were talking about your daughter, who when you guys got married, you gained a daughter. At some point, we have to understand, even if you have a child in a marriage that was there first, me and mommy come first now. Sorry, even though
And
you were
that's
here first.
And you're so right.
Yeah.
But it's a tough one
Oh,
for
yeah.
a mom.
Oh, we're not saying
I
it's
will
not
admit.
hard.
And my husband has been so good about it,
Yeah.
you know, because he sees me stretched
Yeah.
often.
Yeah.
They don't.
Yeah.
They want daddy, they love daddy, but it's mommy everything.
Yeah.
And you're right. In order to feed our marriage, I had to press reset, you know, because I had it wrong. I had it wrong for years, right? And so that I acknowledge as being truth and light. And yes, but it is hard.
It's hard.
It's hard.
But
But anything that's worth it is hard, right?
Yes, it is.
So, like, you don't get a bomb body without getting in the gym.
Yes, you do. Girl, yes, you do.
You can
the
pay
doctor's
for it. But it still costs, right? It's gonna cost you in the gym, or it's gonna cost you in your pocketbook. Either how.
But that's prioritizing.
So we got to talk money, and I don't want us to run out of time without really hitting this hard, because you guys are you're a wealth of knowledge. You really are, and a wealth of truth.
Yes.
You also went through bankruptcy.
Yes.
And are completely honest about that. So help folks navigate. How does that happen, right? You sold millions of records, and you guys had all these businesses. How does that happen?
We're supposed to have lawyers for your lawyers and accountants to watch your accountants.
Do that.
And a lot of times, I think I spoke about this just the other day, there are things like gravity that are put in play that the government has standardized, that if you don't know those laws, it doesn't mean they don't exist. And so one of the things that we fell victim to was in the process of
Lack of knowledge.
We took some resource from the record label. We did a song deal where we said we'll do 3 songs, and they gave us like $50,000. The accountant we had at that time or whatever did not pay the taxes on that $50,000. And so that amount would have been about $11,000. That $11,000 compounded interest over time.
And they won't tell you until 3 years later.
Yeah.
So do that math.
So 11% a day of $11,000 is about $1,100 a day. And then they let it go for like 3 years. And then they come to your door and say, hey, Montell, you owe the government $1.7 million. It's like, I do not owe the government. Yes, you owe the government $1.7 million. So the reality of having to file a bankruptcy in that scenario, Montell was not $1.7 million in debt. Montell Jordan was about $11,000 in debt, but because of the laws that are in place,
it's the biggest heist in the world. You're like,
gangster.
when I was in the studio recording, where were you, Mr. IRS agent?
Gangster. But listen, all the other actors, when you say, oh, Wesley Snipes owes the government $20 million, Wesley don't owe the government $20 million.
Right.
He does not. He somewhere along the line, he didn't have an accountant watching his accountant, and somewhere he got a deal or something and got a $500,000 or $1 million somewhere, and the taxes that was supposed to be paid on that went into default, and the interest compounded per day. Now you owe $20 million, you owe $40 million, and that's the gangster of the IRS.
Touching on money still, let's stay there for a real quick second, right? What is your philosophy regarding money? Because from what we understand, you only have one account.
That's
yes.
But
How is that working?
Well, the beautiful part is that, see, a lot of times people have 2 accounts because they have an exit strategy. But we have an internal strategy.
Y'all just read us. We got several accounts, so y'all just read us. but we might stand on the opposite side of the table. So you go on and speak.
Listen, we have multiple accounts, but our name is on every account because we're gonna be together.
Okay.
And I understand that people got an issue with that. And for business, well, if I had this beforehand,
you gotta have your she money. Listen, she money is an exit strategy. Because guess what? Your mind thinks individual thoughts when you have your own things, right? This is everything we do is we. If you don't, what happens is that when doubt comes or when the trial comes, when situations come, you have an inkling of a thought, well, this would be easier if. And guess what? There is no easier if. If it's both of us, it is what it is. And that's, again, taking the divorce off the table. Those are things like that, because what happens is that this was my mom's thoughts of hey, you should have an individual account. Why? Because if it doesn't go right, that was the description. You want to have an exit strategy. There is no out.
Well,
so that goes. So when you go buy your
so we're done now.
We have to say our logic behind
in that joint account. So when you go buy your purses, you ain't worrying about her buying her purses. When you go buy your jackets, you ain't worrying about him buying his jackets.
There's a budget for that, right?
Okay.
So you know what? Listen, she got to look fly. it's tough. It's rough in these streets. So she gotta have she gotta have that money, right?
Yeah, as I wear 2 pair of Spanx. Yes,
Right.
go ahead.
Sis, I am all about my
And
girl.
Spanx ain't
And Spanx,
cheap.
she is something.
I'm a man to know.
They're not.
I'm a man to know.
But the integrity that they hold, let's
Jesus,
say.
Yeah.
come on.
That the Spanx hold? Or,
Yes.
So, okay,
Well,
so
let me, just really quickly.
sure.
Do you know that every time you fly, they never give your pilot a parachute?
You know why?
Because if your pilot has a parachute, he's got too many options.
Facts.
He's in that plane
One
to
job.
take it up, get it to where it's going, and get it there safely. They don't give you a parachute.
You know why?
Because if you get up there and you get some turbulence, you be ready to jeopardize the entire plane, to
Rip
take
cord and kill us all.
your plane to open up the door to get out,
Yeah.
and it's turbulence. Planes were designed to fly, get where they're going, and to land safely. And in our marriages, in our accounts, and all those things, it's designed to take off together, reach its destination together. And so because of that, we believe, and everybody doesn't believe that, but we believe separate bank accounts is giving you a parachute in your marriage that says if it gets a little rocky, if the air gets thin, if the little oxygen mask comes out, I want to know that if I need to be out, that I can be out, even at the detriment of everybody else. Listen, if that pilot gets out and makes it safely, do they look at that guy like he's a hero? Hey, the plane was going down. Everybody, we glad somebody made it. That's what we look like sometimes.
That's what it looks like.
I love your philosophy about marriage as well as finance.
Yeah.
We do sit on the opposite side of the table on,
Sure.
on this one. When we got married, I was 36, and I had already worked in amassed millions. He had his own businesses. He had already worked and amassed assets. And when we came together and we started businesses, we did indeed start making money together.
Yeah.
But it was a struggle for us. And I think what we have to
Yeah.
do is be honest, as phones ding in the studio. We have to be, very honest about what our stressors are. And not everybody's where you are,
Yeah.
okay? Which is,
Yeah.
again, why we had
Yeah.
this podcast, so we can
Yeah.
draw inspiration and wisdom. For us, it was you have your account, I have my account, we have our joint account. Every dollar that we make, no matter who makes more or not, 50% of everything we make goes into the joint account. But
Ran by trust.
ran by our trust. So ultimately, it's all ours because we control the trust. It's all ours, but it's not even ours. It's our children's because
Right.
the trust is for the benefit of the children. But I do believe that when we come together in the marriage, there's the us, but we wanted to have individualism and still some level of anonymity. I'm not saying that
No, I got
in the
you.
church and under God's eyes, that's the way to do it. I am saying it works for us.
Lean
Well,
into
guess
that.
what? What doesn't work for us is time, right?
What does that mean?
does
That
that mean?
means we have
You cannot
coming
be about to
close
say what you're about to
to
Is
say.
he
right now.
trying to close this
I'm trying
out?
because
Let
listen,
him finish his
no,
statement.
I'm gonna
then.
let him finish his statement. This is for you.
What?
No, go.
Oh,
My
'cause I
wife
was
will
talking
go.
so much.
My wife
Oh.
will go.
Was
You know?
Did he just shut me up?
No,
Did
I don't
he
think
just
that
shut me
was
up?
that.
No, that's not what that was at all. Not at all. Not at all. Not at all. No, this has been amazing, right? And there's a part of the show where we get to say one to go on, one to grow on.
Before
right?
we do that, can we have him finish his
I
sentence?
want him
though?
to. That's
Okay.
where I'm going, baby girl.
All right. So I don't even know what I was gonna say.
See?
What I was
That's
gonna
what I'm
say.
saying.
That's okay. No, we don't necessarily have to agree on that point. And once again, I think that as I look and I think about our kids, you think about your children when they one day get married. Do you want them to go into a relationship with make sure you have yours and you have yours, so that no matter what you've done, it's very, very different thought process. But when we got married, sometimes it's later, sometimes there's lots of different journeys. When we got married, everything got married. Our families married each other. Our bodies married each other. Our bank accounts married each other. For us, we fully embraced that we are going to be one in everything. And
Now, mind you, we had the deal before we got married, but the crazy part was that there were people telling him, hey, you should have a prenup. He's like, I feel like if I do that, I'm saying this is going to end
with an exit strategy.
And so that's what I'm saying.
rather than an
That
eternal
is so
strategy.
honorable, which is why it was important for you guys to be the first couple we interviewed. Because I think that we should want to emulate couples who are doing it successfully, not who are perfect, not who've not been through anything, who've been through and they're still successful. Y'all been through everything, and you're successful.
Man.
And so I think a lot of people look to you and aspire to you. And you got this book, This Is How We Do It.
Yeah.
And, I think all of that is just to understand your philosophy. We still a work in progress.
Yeah, that's good.
But also I think there's just a level of knowing that half of people who get married don't stay together.
Yeah.
Right.
And so to be able to pray, hope, and work for the best, but also to protect yourself if, God forbid, the worst. Maybe there's wisdom in yours, and then there's some logic in the way that we do things as well.
I don't at all. It doesn't work for everybody, but like you said, you're a work in progress.
Right.
And from that standpoint, one, we hope you'll have us back. We hope we get a chance to come back and be with you, because there's so much
more
to
to
unpack.
talk about. Yeah.
So much.
And then we want to walk alongside of y'all too, as you are navigating, to be able to, as you get information, you can then adjust. And if you say, hey, maybe that resonates as true to me, and from that standpoint, when you hear about the parachute, there might be something that says, you know what, maybe it is a parachute. I don't know, but if it is, why do I feel like I need to have the
A
parachute?
shoe account, my
and
shoe
so
account.
this could be in your journey. It could just be a stepping stone to be able to, who knows what happens,
Right.
over time.
Right.
Sure.
Right. Agreed.
We are so blessed to have you here.
Yes,
Guys,
indeed.
as you can see, full of wisdom, full of knowledge, full of truth. The book, you want to tell everybody how to get it?
Making your marriage a masterpiece. This is how we do it, making your marriage a masterpiece. You can go
get
to
it on.
MontellandKristin.com.
That's correct.
Montell with 2 L's, Kristin,
With 2 L's.
Kristin, and the and is spelled out AND. Montell and Kristin.
And you can get it on Amazon.
Yes.
And they can join you at church.
Absolutely.
absolutely.
At Masterpiece, PEACE, church.com, YouTube, Facebook.
Yeah, we meet every Sunday night virtually. It's a virtual house church out of Georgia. But we got people all over the world that are watching right now, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Sundays, for people that are on the go. They're doing TV shows and flipping rental properties and playing in the NFL. And people that are on the go that for whatever reason can't get to a church, we bring the church to them. And we preach and teach and worship right from our living room to your living room.
And what about your social media handles?
Instagram is Montell and Kristin. Facebook is Montell and Kristin. YouTube, Montell and Kristin. Bank account,
Montell
and
Kristin.
I wish I had a bell to ring. Ring the bell. Ring the bell.
my
Where's
God.
that
That's
ding?
the ding. Where's the ding
where's
when
the
you need
ding? That's what it is. Oh, my goodness.
You're
So
going to insert it right there.
we always like to end everything we do with one to go on and one to grow on, because we believe that there's a blessing and a lesson in everything. And certainly you guys being here has been a blessing.
You have your one to go on, correct, babe?
I do. I have one to go on. I mean, there was so much to draw from there, but I feel like what they said doesn't need an exclamation point. So I'm going completely in a different direction here. If you show me 10 multimillionaires, today I could probably show you 8 people with antidepressants in their medicine cabinet. Because the one thing that money cannot buy is joy. Money cannot buy you happiness, and you have to be in control of your own happy.
Yes.
It can buy you a lot of things that mask sadness, but it cannot buy joy. So part of this Marriage and Money podcast, people always ask me in my business and ask Mike and I, how can I create multiple streams of income? It's always about money. But first, we got to ask, how can we create multiple streams of joy?
That's good.
Because
really
having
good.
one without the other,
It's worthless.
worthless.
Yes.
Wanna
That's why
grow
I'm
on,
married to
babe.
y'all. Yes.
Yes.
Love
That's
that.
really good.
One to grow on. It came to me as we sat here and I listened to everyone speak. And for me, it is understanding that there is no rules to a right relationship. You have to do what works for you and your significant other, because comparison kills,
Facts.
right? You don't know what anyone else has going on in their home, and you try to emulate that, and it goes wrong for you because you are not being your true self.
True.
So we have to understand thyself before we can learn each other. Learn yourself so that you can be there fully present for the other and then grow together as a couple. And understand that, again, there are no rules for a right relationship.
And so I'm going to remember that when you tell me, babe, around the house, the rule was that y'all heard he said no rules
Ain't no right
to the right relationship.
Comparison kills.
When you tell me, babe, the dishes don't face that way in the dishwasher. They're supposed to face to the left. No rules. I'm sorry, we go
They
like
all
this
got
the time.
rules. It's all right.
Listen, guys,
Ladies and gentlemen,
we are Egypt.
and I'm Mike.
And this is the Marriage and Money podcast. We are so grateful
Yes.
for you sharing time and space with us. And be sure to check out Married to Real Estate on HBC.